This episode, Two Ways to Skin a Cat. Well, John and I are both problem solvers. We've noticed a precipitous rise in the cost of PVC stock lately, it seems. Seems to be that plastic in general has been going up. But we were both doing projects where we needed to come up with some solutions where we weren't actually using PVC. And we decided we'd do a show about this, about some of our strategies when it comes to possibly using different products for different types of applications. Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show, home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros Radio Show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition's entitled Two Ways to Skin a Cat. And to help me explain, as always, it's the magnificent and most wonderful Mr. John.
I'm here, baby. You know, the other day, Larry, we were talking about. I've been working on this big gazebo project thing in the neighborhood, and I wanted to get some PVC, and you just alluded to it at the opening here of the show. But that got us to talking. Is I couldn't believe how much that stuff has gone up, which of course, should have known, right? It's petroleum product. And, I really wanted to use it instead of, wood and the paint in it and everything else.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Some of the trim is still kind of reasonable, the small trim, but the big stuff is really, gotten out of hand. Anyways, so that got us to talking about, just being innovative and adapt,
Well, that story actually brought up my recent experience where I was actually trimming out a door on a little tiny alcove, basically, kind of an alcove type shed that I'm doing on a rental house. And I needed some dimensional PVC. It needed to be about 8 inches wide. Actually, it was funny. One side needed to be 8 inches. One side was 7.5. And so same deal. I get down to the local home improvement store, and I mean, these boards were, they were more than $40 a piece. And I'm like, yikes, that's a little high. So, we came up with an alternative, which we'll go into, but anyway.
Yeah, that's you really find at this day, with this day and age, with all the prices going up and inflation and so on and so forth, you really have to find a way to make do, right?
Yeah, or take alternatives. What are your alternatives? And
Yep.
so that's what we decided we'd talk on this show about. We've talked about some of these things before, but it's just, again, as these prices keep rising and you start looking at what used to cost, those boards used to be $25 roughly.
Right.
And now they've almost doubled, not quite, but they've almost doubled, and we anticipate them to come down in the future. At least we hope so, anyway. But for right now, I had an outside situation where it basically was trim boards, and I wanted to have it be completely waterproof and not have to paint it because everything was white, right? Anyway, and it's just one of those things, and not have to continually paint it, right? Because that's one of the beauties of PVC is you don't have to paint it, year over year, unless you want to change the color. But anyway, be that as it may, completely waterproof, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, what did you do, John, on your particular project?
Well, I had to go back to wood because I needed a 1x10, and those things would have cost a fortune. So I had to go back to wood, and before I put it up, I just painted the heck out of the wood on all sides of it before I trimmed it out, to protect it. I wish that I could have, gone with PVC, but I couldn't charge a customer that kind of money right now.
Right, right.
I mean, it's a lot. So I mean, there's a lot of ways to to skin this cat, as the title is here.
By the way, no animals were hurt in the production of this show. Johnny and I are not in the habits of skinning cats, just so you know.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yep, not for any Satan worship or anything like that.
No.
So Yeah, I mean, there's always one way to resolve these problems, right?
Yeah.
And I think once again, when I go and I read the boards and some of the chat rooms and things like that with the handyman and contractors and things, there's a lot of questions on this kind of topic or what kind of material to use, and some of this you just have to kind of step back and noodle it out.
Right, right. And I want to give the solution that I use. So I was just doing it again, this was door trim, and we were going to do it in a craftsman style anyway, meaning square, right? Not real, fine finish trim. And so as I'm sitting there looking at the $38 boards that I'm going like, "Oh my God," like, and I needed 3 of them, by the way. To do this project, so basically it's going to be like about $120 with the tax to do this. And lo and behold, the particular store that I was in, it happened to be a Home Depot. Not that that matters, but uh, I look straight below it, directly below it. I don't even know why I looked down, but I looked down, and John, there are 3/8 or excuse me, 1/2 inch by 4 foot by 8 foot sheets of PVC for $99. So I'm looking at it and I'm going, well, I don't I don't have to use 3/4 inch for this particular application. 1/2 inch is just fine for what I'm trying to do. So I bought the sheet, the 4x8 sheets, and I cut to size, which worked out well because, as I said before, my two sides were not exactly even, and I had to go up under some siding, vinyl siding trim. And if you know anything about vinyl
Mm.
siding trim, it's got an indent, so you actually can lay it up in underneath it. And so the whole idea of this was it made the siding completely waterproof in this trim in and around the door. Anyway, long story short, I bought the sheets. I cut 2 pieces out, and I still have more than half the sheet left to use for other projects and other kinds of projects. So in effect, it cost me a whole lot less than the buying dimensional stock. Yes, it's a 1/2 inch thinner, but I don't really care. It doesn't need to be 3/4 of an inch thick per se, because it's just a trim piece. And it covers everything up. And now I know I have a solid piece that runs from the door over. So everything that's behind it, which happens to be wood, is completely protected. It's completely waterproof behind it.
Yeah,
So I achieved the goal that I was, and no maintenance, right? And no
yeah,
rot and all that good
right,
groovy stuff.
right.
And so I achieved my goal and ended up with extra product that I now can use for another project.
Yeah,
The point of this story is that you have to keep your eyes open, and you have to be kind of thinking outside the box, not necessarily outside the box, but think about things with a little different light. Yeah, we've always used 3/4 inch wood to do trim, right? I mean, pretty much, right? If you're doing craftsman stuff, we've pretty much it's 3/4 inch trim. But does it have to be? Well,
mm,
that's the question. Does it have to be? Um, do you, you know, do you, there was another one, John, I replacing a water heater and putting the expansion tank on, right?
mm-hmm.
And so I'm getting ready to buy. I had the water heater on my car. I'm looking at the various parts in the water heater section, and there, sitting, much to my wonderment, is sitting this tall brass T-shaped uh, piece of equipment, right? Or fitting. I'll call it a fitting, I guess. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, what's this? I pick it up and I look at it. At the top end, there's a push to connect fitting, right? For PEX up at the top. At the
Mm-hmm.
bottom, it's threaded for 3/4 inch MPT, like what goes on the top of the hot water heater. And in the top of the T, so it's a long T, and at the top of the T, there's a female 3/4 inch MPT fitting coming out the side, which you actually just screw the pressure regulator tank, the expansion tank,
Yeah,
right into that. And I look at it and I go, oh my God, this thing's going to be like, $100. It was $20. And I'm like, wow, that solves all the problems. So it gives me a push to connect on one end, which I'm going to plug my PEX into. It is a structural piece, so it's actually strong enough to hold the expansion tank up without having to put the supports on the expansion tank, which saves me both time and money, right? And then I'm looking at it and I'm going, and there's certainly a lot of aggravation savings here. So it really achieved the goal
yeah,
of, like we say, we
yeah,
like to save time, money, and aggravation. How did I find that? I kept my eyes open.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
just looking. I'm like, oh, and I said, what is that? right?
Yeah.
What is
Yeah, and
that?
it's always, once again, you get into these projects, and you just have to kind of start to noodle things out. I kind of weigh the cost. You kind of got to weigh the cost benefit. You know,
Right. Right.
um, and if I could afford the PVC, I'm looking at a forever fix right there, right?
Correct.
It's not gonna go anywhere. Versus probably 30 years on this wood.
Right. And Johnny, at our
I ain't
age,
gonna
guess
I ain't
what?
gonna
It's
see
going
the
to
end of that
outlive
wood.
us. That's right.
So for I think it was $15 versus whatever, it was insane. Anyways,
Yeah, and there's always that kind of that marginal return, right? Where you would love to
well,
do
that's
the
it. I
forever
mean, yeah,
piece, but then is the juice worth the squeeze, I guess.
yeah.
And that's a personal choice, right? We know this is a personal choice, you know. And I just have to make a comment, Johnny. Both you and I now have this. We're old enough, folks. This, if you're young, understand this. Eventually, you get to the point where it's like, um, is this going to outlast me? And you're
Yeah,
sadly like, oh, that wood with the paint on it is now going to outlast
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Dang,
Don't
like,
buy green bananas. Um,
yeah, don't buy green
so
bananas.
the other thing that
Oh,
I've done in the past is, and I know the builder that built my house did this too. You just take a bunch of, he used what's a tool that's called a shaper. It's a machine,
yep,
and just run cheap wood through it and create your own molding. Now, I don't have that machine. You can look that up on the internet. They're pretty cool. However, I've done a bunch of trim work on around in the basement, around my barn, things that I've actually bought cheaper wood. I didn't really care for the trim, and just used a router and created my own.
right.
I know a lot of you folks have routers, things like that. You can buy like router tables where you can mount them up underneath there. Nothing quite professional, but they work. It works pretty
They work
well.
really well.
And
You
just
you
and
jig it
just
up and run it is
and
what you
just
do.
run your wood through this thing and create your own shapes. So that's a way to save yourself some money. If you don't like the trim, you don't like the cost of it. Have something unique, different. That's an added benefit right there. So,
And what's one of the other advantages, Johnny? If you ever need to recreate it for whatever
well,
reason,
yeah. If you
you
ever
know
need,
who made it.
yeah, you
You
know
did
to
it.
made it now. If I had
Yeah.
to do that again, I'd be like, oh boy, where's everything? But it is unique. It is different, and it looks fantastic. And I just, so you just kind of, once again, you just kind of noodle those kind of things out, right?
Everything, there's choices in almost
Yeah,
everything is
yeah,
the point, right?
yeah.
There's
So,
just a million choices. I do that a lot with like plywood. Do I use plywood or do I use regular wood? And it depends on what the job is, what the application is. Right now, I'm doing a stair riser project. Well, this stairwell originally had carpet over it, and honestly, the risers they put in aren't they're not necessarily flush to the edge. Some are, some aren't. Anyway, long story short, I'm just going to take some quarter inch Luan plywood, and I'm going to cut new riser faces out, just faces,
yeah, that's all you
and
need.
yep, and I'm going to tack them in, and I might glue them, I might not. I'm not really sure. I hadn't
And
gotten that
and
far into
with
the project,
And
but
the added benefit to that is I was just going to say, with Luan and things like that, it's smooth enough to where you can just dust it off a little bit with sandpaper and paint it, and it'll
yep,
look great.
yep, yep.
So I mean, that's a great use of that kind of stuff.
Yep, and this is going to be a painted finish, and my dog is barking in the background, which is okay. This is going to be a painted finish, so it really doesn't matter, right? As to, like you say, it needs to be dust sanded. It
Yep.
needs to be sanded off and finished off, but it'll come out great. And we might put poly on it, maybe not. I don't know. Again, I'm not that far into the project, but in noodling this through, I'm just like, wow, that's going to save me just absolutely a ton of money versus trying to replace the whole riser. Trying to replace the whole riser would be very costly, and actually take more time. So it's kind of one of those things that I can save a little bit of time as well. So
I'll tell you this, Larry. You might want to do this too. Is that when you make those things, you paint, you do that first. Lightly sand them and then paint them first before you put them on. Then you don't have to paint slop anywhere.
Well, thank you for the advice. Already been there. Already thought about
Okay,
that
you
one,
already did
right?
that. Good,
Yeah,
good
yeah.
man.
But no, but I mean, and then there's that advantage as well. And so what we'll do is where we put the nails in, we'll obviously touch those up with a
Yeah.
little bit
Oh,
of paint.
absolutely,
You know,
absolutely. So that's another great use of um, something that's inexpensive and it works. It's
for
going to
the
work great.
application, it
Yeah,
works. It's going to work
it's
really,
going to
really
work
well
great.
for the application for sure. Because it's really just a trim face piece. It's even
That's all. Yeah,
with the original riser behind it. If somebody does kick it hard, they're still going to be kicking the
yeah.
hardwood riser. They're just hitting a faceplate, So just kind of one of those things. So our point is that basically use the thing between your ears.
Hmm.
Johnny's,
Okay.
what? Come on, Johnny.
And
Think it.
I think yeah, right. To recap, I think when I was in Home Depot and I called you up and I was like, man, I was shocked at the price of the PVC. Going back to that, I think it just started to hey, I got to think this thing through. And that brought up this show. And I think a lot of us are out there doing the same thing with the amount of the soaring prices in building materials. If you can find another way.
Yeah, and I'm going to make this suggestion, folks. If you've come up with kind of a unique way to do something, post that out on our Facebook group. That's at Handyman Pros on Facebook. And it's not that we're trying to do a blatant plug, even though we are trying to do a blatant plug, but these are the kinds of ideas that I think we need to be sharing with the group so that people have these ideas because this is not like we've put out there before about using LVP under sinks, right? To reface under your cabinets, under your sinks. It's just a different use for the same product. Johnny, I don't think I told you this story. So the other day I was at Floor and Decor and I'm putting in, I'm redoing a rental house right now. So I'm putting in some new LVP flooring. And so I'm actually talking to this woman who's assisting with getting the stuff. And I said, and my wife actually said to her, she said, yeah, we take all the extra, we put it in under the sinks. And we said, we use it as, like a kind of like a liner up under the sink. And she looks at us and she goes, oh my God, that's an amazing idea. I'm like, and of course I always bring out the old, you've got the steel can and the ring, and she goes, yeah, it'll wipe right up, and so I was just
Yeah.
like, well, there you go. And that's just another one of those ideas. But if you have those ideas, post them out on our Facebook group because it's just something that we can share. It's just a way that we help each other to try to solve some of these, challenges that we're facing right now, and coming up with some really, there's good ideas out there. Everybody's got good ideas, and like talking about my water tank piece, right? Some guy actually said, I already know how this was created. If we had one piece that was this, it'd be great. And sure enough, he goes and he gets it manufactured, and away he goes, or he contacts somebody to have it manufactured, whatever. But there you go. Now there's a product,
Yeah.
And so that's how this stuff happens. And there's just too many opportunities. There's too many different ways. We've got too much knowledge
Yeah.
amongst all the people that we talk to. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Very good, Larry.
what else, Johnny?
That's it.
Johnny,
That's it. Noodle it out.
Yeah, so the
use that thing between your ears.
I'm working on it, Johnny. I'm working on it. You got to give me a second here. So anyway, I'm riding down the road the other day with Allie, Allie N, who sits in my truck, stands in my truck. And next thing I know, she starts talking to me. She says, Johnny is at home. My friends are picking him up. We want a new way to, and after that, she garbled out. But do you know what happened there, John?
Larry, I think I gotta go. I think I gotta go back and ask you what's between your ears. There, you might need you need a checkup, man.
All right, folks. Well, with that, as the spaceship has landed, do we look at it or do we take it apart? We are once again at the end of the show. We want to thank you to listening to the Handyman Pros Radio Show. If you would like to get a hold of us, send us an email, questions at handymanprosradioshow.com or at handymanprosradioshow@gmail.com. Either way, it will get to us, one or the other. Questions, comments, all that good groovy stuff. We mentioned the Facebook group. That's at Handyman Pros. And we do have a website too, handymanprosradioshow.com. We post all our shows up there and all that good stuff. Got a bunch of resources there. Give us a shout. We want to thank you, and we'll see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.